All right, so let me think where we can kind of start with it. All right, so we went through 9/11 and that. Okay, so now we can start on the police academy.
Right.
So, okay. So, I was really worried, especially since I had started these, antidepressants that, mental illness had such a big stigma then. I mean, this isn't even that long ago. We're talking about, we're going into 2003, 2004. So I was really worried that I was going to not be able to be a police officer like my big brother because of these medicines. So I did my best to, come off of them. And I had applied for many, many, many police departments through the state of New Jersey. Um, just because I was like, I don't care where I got to go. I really want to do this. And I think I would be really good at it because I already knew that I was good under pressure. I already knew that I was a talker. I was a people person. And I always knew that I wanted to help people. And I know it's cheesy. And then everybody's like, ooh, I really, anybody who is in police, fire, and ambulance, they're going to say, well, I did it to help people. They're right. It sounds campy,
Mhm.
um, but they are like they all want to help somebody in some capacity. And I love the idea of police work because I thought there's so many hats you get to wear. You can be a therapist one day, you can help be a social worker one day. Some days you can be the boo boo bus and help somebody with an injury. Like it's just, I really love the wide range of challenges that you could kind of work through with someone, and that 90% of your problems can be solved in the way that you talk to people. And I knew that I was good at that. So when I was applying for all these police departments, it was really, really frustrating that I was just not getting a job. And I'm like, listen, like at the time, I'm like, I'm 5'9", I'm 180 pounds. Like I am not a teeny tiny girl, and I am a tough cookie. Grew up in Philly, fought my whole life. I was ready. I was ready to rough and rumble. And so when it came to not getting these, interviews and stuff, and, I would get to the very, very end. And then they would be like, oh, I picked somebody else. So New
Oh
Jersey has a
no.
program that is called the alternate route, which basically means if you're going to work for, a police department and you get a job with them, you're going to go through the hiring process with the police department, right? Like, let's say if you're going through Philly, you're going to apply for Philly, you're going to take a written test, you're going to take a physical, you're going to do a background check, you're going to take a psychological. There's all kinds of stuff that you get. Then there's interviews and all that stuff. So you get to the very end, and that's when they make their choice. If you don't get picked up by a police department, there is a way to go about going to become a police officer, called the alternate route. And basically, what that is that you apply to the police academy like you would apply for a job. But it's different because when you graduate, you are a certified police officer, and you're a lot more marketable because people, apply to a police department. They go through all this stuff. They pay all this money and all this stuff to hire these people. And week one of the police academy, they get their asses whooped and they quit and they can't handle it. And then you wasted all that money and now you're short staffed and you can't wait. So if you kind of can prove that you can make it through, you know, the alternate route, and you could pay for yourself and push yourself and like you want it that bad that that's what you're going to do, you're really marketable when you get out because all they have to do is just train you with like their basic departmental stuff, and you have to qualify with a firearm with the one that they give you. It's all really easy stuff in the hiring process. Like they don't have to worry about wasting money because you're not going to make it to the academy. They just say, hey, cool, you're already certified, let me file the proper paperwork and welcome aboard. And there's stipulations when it comes to hiring someone at that capacity. There's a bunch of paperwork that you have to do that has to go with the Police Training Commission in the state of New Jersey. And there's like stipulations, like you can't have like a temporary job. You know what I mean? Like you can't have like a little, oh, I'm going to work here for a couple days or a couple months or whatever. Like you are a permanent employee. And so when I got through into the police academy, I was like, oh, this is easy because I worked in this town on the ambulance squad and I know all the cops that are teaching. So this is going to be easy because I'm an idiot. Because anybody who knows anything about law enforcement and the police academy, knowing the instructors doesn't do dick to help you get through the police academy. It makes it 10 times harder. Um, those guys whooped my ass all day, every day, start to finish for the entire 6 months. Um, part of that was my fault because I did not train properly. Um, if anybody has seen Full Metal Jacket, my police academy experience was very much, I was the private Pyle, which if you haven't seen the movie, he's like the sluggish, chubby one that can't run in formation because he's too fat and slow and just constantly screws up. And in the police academy, it's a military mentality. One person screws up, everybody pays for it. So my entire class hated me. My instructors were riding my ass. Every day I came home and cried to my mom and was like, I don't want to do this. I hate these people. And she'd be like, get your ass up and get back there. And my mom has always been my biggest cheerleader. That has never changed, but I got it pretty bad from the instructors because there were some personal issues that I had with one of the officers who got in trouble for kind of harassing me. Because our interest in each other didn't align. We'll say that. And so we got in trouble at work, and they kind of took that out on me. And that was tough because the more mistakes I made, the more nervous I was. Then the anxiety starts to build. And I didn't know how to play the game. Here's a rule of thumb. If they ask you something in the police academy, they ask you a question. Newsflash. They already know the answer. Don't lie to them. So all of the integrity I have and all the truth and honest, that's why I know that there's not a lick of what I'm telling you that is slightly off on the truth because they beat honesty into me. If you don't have your word, if you don't have your integrity, you have nothing. So, kicking and screaming, I made it. It was the hardest thing I've probably ever done in my life. But the pride that I felt was incredible. And even more so, if you had a relative in law enforcement at graduation, your relative got to give you your diploma. And when they called my name, my lower lip was quivering as I walk, picture the military, robot kind of style, crisp turns on the corners at a 90 degree. And I walked up and there's my big brother. Uh-huh. Full hand salute right to his brow for me. And he's crying and I'm crying, but nobody who's not within 1 foot of us can tell. And, we hugged each other and just cried. And I'm going to be such a baby. What he said to me exactly what I needed to hear. He was like, Daddy would be so proud of you. And my entire life, I grew up, even as a little kid. Mommy, do you think Daddy sees my pretty dress? Do you think he likes my shoes? Do you think he saw that I got a good grade in school? Do you think he saw me in cheerleading? Do you think he saw me at my dance recital? Like I constantly always, and my brother remembered that. And at the most important moment of my life up to that time at 22 years old, I needed that, and I was so proud of myself. And I knew he was there, I knew he was there and it was really, really comforting. So fast forward a couple months, I'm applying to every darn police department in the state of the union has. I'm just not getting a job. Finally, there was one specific department. I won't really name them because the people that know me know that they know where I worked.
Okay.
And they know the quality. I was screwed over from day one and I didn't know it. Basically, long story short, like I said before, if you hire a person who does the police academy the way that I did, the alternate route, you have to file the proper paperwork with the Police Training Commission. And once that happens, you get like a PTC certification, which is your Police Training Commission certification. It's like basically like a social security card for like a police officer. So they know that like you're there and you're registered. That is usually kept with like your department, heads and stuff like that. You often don't need a copy of it on your own because, you work for the department. So I worked for this department and I enjoyed it. It wasn't in the capacity that I really wanted to be a police officer. It was kind of a different setting. working county-wise versus for an individual township or city. Um, it was a large department, fairly large, but I just didn't feel like I could really use the skills that I had with like the gift of gab and being able to really help the public in the way that I wanted to. So while I was there, I always applied for other departments. But I was there probably, I want to say, a little over a year. And one day, the one of the heads of the department called me in, and she basically told me that I was getting laid off. And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Well, when you were first hired, we had I think two or three women were out on maternity. They had like two other people who were injured. Um, so I was kind of used as a substitute. And as I said before, you're not really allowed to do that as someone who was in my position as an alternate route to the police academy. So, but I didn't know that, or else I would have never taken the position. So I thought to myself, well, I was really upset because I was like, oh man, I've got a year under my belt and now I got to start from scratch. But hey, here's my opportunity to find another job. So when I applied for another department, I made it through to um, the end of the interview. And the chiefs at the time at this department were like, hey, so, we just need a copy of your police training commission certification. I was like, okay, no problem. And I said, but I don't really have that. And they said, oh, your former department allowed it. I said, okay. So, and I had been laid off for, a couple months now. And I called my department and I said, I need a copy of the police training commission certificate. And they said, oh, we don't have that. The police training commission probably still has it because they didn't send it. Ah, okay. So I called the police training commission. Police training commission says, who are you? And so I told them my full name and date of birth and social security number and told them the department I work for. And they said, ma'am, we don't have any record of you.
Oh, geez.
And I said, what? So I reached out to one of my instructors and told him the situation. He said, Bonnie, you need a lawyer and you need one now. And I said, okay. I called 11 different attorneys before someone was willing to try to take my case. But he wanted a $50,000 retainer because of the amount of work it was going to cause. Basically, what had happened was my department knew that they were going to use me on a temporary basis and just basically use me like a substitute teacher. They never filed the appropriate paperwork with the state and the police training commission. And the only records of me working there were my W-2s. And basically, so all of the laws that cover police officers and jurisdiction, safety, and arrest rights, like we are the only people in the world that can literally take your freedom. Take your freedom. And they have no record of me. So what that means is basically if I would have unfortunately been involved in a shooting, and if I struck someone and killed them, I was going to go to jail for murder because no one knew I existed as a police officer.
Damn.
Yeah. So all that hard work, and I was really bummed out. So as I started to finally dig around with these attorneys, and I'm calling my department and I'm fretting them with this, I need that. I continued my search for law enforcement because from the date that you graduate the police academy, you have 3 years to obtain full-time employment. I've already lost a year, or a year and a half technically, because I didn't start until a couple months after I graduated the police academy. And so now I have a year and a half left to find a full-time job. When I tell you, Ari, that I applied for 60, 70 police departments in that span of time. I was only working part-time at the ambulance squad at the time because I needed a paycheck, number one. And number two, I had so many interviews and tests and this and that I had to do. I couldn't work full time because I was trying to secure full time. Finding a police job was my full time job.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed at 72 police departments. And every single time I would get to literally the end, when we're talking about interviews with the chiefs and all the top brass, and it would come down to me and two other people. And every time I'd be the odd one out. I never got picked. And I was just like, man, what am I doing wrong? And finally, I went to this one police department. Again, I won't name them. Went through background, whole 9 yards, had a little binder that I had put together. I would always bring to interviews with me that had any awards, special certifications and training I had done with either the ambulance squad or police departments, letters of accommodation for, serving for 9/11, things of that nature, very important stuff. And I brought this binder and they asked me to, hang on to it, because they wanted to, show everybody. And I got offered a job based on, my performance and all that kind of stuff. And this pride binder I had, and I cried. I was just so ecstatic. I couldn't wait. I went out, I bought business suits and, all that stuff that you have to do for like your office training, while you get hired with a new department. And I showed up for my first day with my little messenger bag and my sharp looking suit. And I showed up and they basically said, thanks, but no thanks. And that the employment offer had been rescinded.
Oh, damn.
And they didn't really give me a reason why. And I honestly, I think that was the first time in my life I ever, like, suicide ever jumped to the front of my brain, ever. And I mean, that sounds dramatic, but I was fighting it. I was fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's not dramatic. I can definitely.
Yeah, and that's with the mental health. It's I'm already in an uphill battle with things that I've been through in my life at this point. All I'm trying to do is have a job that I get satisfaction from and I can help people. And I can't even do that. And at that point, later that evening, probably around 9, 10 o'clock at night, I got a call from a block number. And I always pick up a block number. I'm one of those people because worst case scenario, you hang up on them. It's not a big deal. And I got a phone call from one of the detectives that did my background. And he said, we did talk to you, and this is off the record. And I really like you. And I think you have a lot to offer. And I think you'd be an incredible officer. But I need to tell you what I think is happening. And I said, I'm all ears. And he said, I think your department is blackballing you. He said, I made some phone calls on my own. He said, because I couldn't figure out how spectacular of a resume you have. You interview incredibly. You're not a teeny little girl. You're a tough cookie. You're enthusiastic. You're ready to go. You have a gift of gab. He said, I'm looking at this book of awards and accolades. He's like, and I just couldn't figure it out. He said, I made some phone calls, and the people in your department, they're really pissed off because now the state of New Jersey's like kind of digging around a little bit, and they don't want that kind of attention because apparently they've done this before to somebody. And they're blackballing me. They're basically, once I'm getting close and once they call to do that job reference, they shoot it down immediately. And that's why I wasn't getting hired. So, I'm fighting the state of New Jersey. I'm fighting my department. I'm never going to win. And every attorney I saw, I don't have $50,000 for a retainer for you to tell me I might have a case. That was defeat, 100%. Because if I hadn't gotten hired, there was 2 weeks left that I had remaining to get the full-time employment before my certification expired. And then I'd have to start all over again in the police academy. That disappointment, I can still feel that rot in my stomach. It's like the dream that it was right there in my hands. And I'd worked so hard for it, and people were so proud of me, and I was so proud of myself. And I really looked at this job as like a new opportunity in my life to just, continue to just improve on myself and use my good to help others. And even that got pulled out from under me. And that was a lot to that was a lot of defeat, utter disappointment. I felt like I didn't have an identity because I had worked so hard to put my blood, sweat, and tears in this.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, so I just continued to work EMS and always loved it. I am friends with so many people that I still work with because trauma bonding is very real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that if you look up trauma bonding in a dictionary, I'm pretty sure it's just going to have a picture of a whole bunch of police officers, a whole bunch of firefighters, a whole bunch of EMTs and paramedics, because I'm pretty sure we invented that word. We we see the worst things on the worst people in the worst days of their lives, horrific things that will give you nightmares. God knows I've had plenty. I mean, 9/11, you really can't top that, but there's some things that are pretty goddamn close. So I just continued to, I was very embarrassed. I felt like a failure. And there were rumors that, like, oh, I had, rumors from guys I went to the police academy with that, oh, I had a domestic violence incident and they took my guns and I put my hands on somebody and it was, police brutality. And there were just all these rumors about why I wasn't a police officer anymore. And it just turned me inward. I just didn't, it just, that shell on my outside just hardened more and more and more.
Yeah. That's
And,
awful.
not wanting to really open up to people in that capacity and not really having a lot of trust for people. I made really poor decisions relationship wise, drinkers, feeders, guys that cheated on their girls with me. And I had no idea because I didn't want to see it because I just was happy that somebody paid me some positive attention because my self-esteem was just shot. And I mean, not just physically, I just felt rotten from inside out. I couldn't figure out why the world was just against me nonstop, constantly just taking a beating. And so then began 15 years of EMS. And my life started to change pretty quickly around that time because my sister, that I didn't really have that great of a relationship with, she had gotten pregnant. And at my police academy graduation, there's a picture of me holding my 1-month-old baby niece who was in a Build-A-Bear policeman's outfit at my police academy graduation. So through my time of being, a police officer and stuff, I always have my niece around me. But my sister has severe mental illness, drug abuse. I mean, she went through the same things that I went through as a kid and my brother went through as a kid. But everybody coped a little differently. And I was always kind of a target for my sister. She is a little under 2 years older than me. And the day that my dad passed away, this is where we talk about the motor vehicle safety laws in 1986. When we were driving a couple miles to my grandparents' house to go pick up my grandpa the day my dad died, my sister said, I want to be up front, sit in the front seat of the car at 6 years old. And I said, I want to be up front. And my dad told my sister, well, Bonnie said it first, so she's going to sit up front on the way there, and then you can sit up front on the way back. And she said, well, if I'm not first, I'm not going. Cue the pouty lip and the crossed arms. And my dad said, okay. And so I went with my dad by myself. So as I got older, I started to realize that she had this huge resentment against me because I had my dad's last moments with him. But in her little kid brain, it was basically like Princess Bonnie gets whatever she wants. Not that I worked for anything. My whole police career was like, oh, you got that because you knew people. No, not because I busted my ass all. Not at all. So there was always kind of hostility with my sister and I. I mean, my mom could tell you She would try to rock me out of my cradle. My mom said that she was a really nice little girl, nice little 6-year-old girl. And then once my dad died, she was very nasty. Um, Told chronic lies, like she's one of those, pathological liars. And, in high school, she was pregnant a bajillion times and, said she did all these drugs that she didn't, and then did drugs that she said she didn't do. And it was, there was always complications. So she has her own complex issues on her own, but I'm just so callous to her because of the treatment that I've had my whole life from her that, it doesn't even phase me anymore. It's kind of sad. But when my sister had given birth to my niece, we tried to kind of repair that a bit. But unfortunately, my sister, with her issues that she had growing up, she loved attention, good, bad, and different. She's one of those people, if attention's on me, it's attention. And so when she was pregnant with my niece, it was like, look at me, baby belly, look at my big baby belly. She really relished in the attention of herself and didn't realize that, like, once that baby comes out, nobody gives a shit about you. It's all about that baby. As every parent knows, that's how it's supposed to be. You are not a priority anymore. Your child is, because they can't do anything without you. She didn't do well with that. Her drug use actually spiraled into really bad drug use. And I was seeing slowly the neglect that my niece was getting because the dad had left the picture within, I think my niece was 3 months old. He didn't want to deal with my sister's shit. He was out of there. So, and then my sister met someone very shortly after, and he was kind of helping raise my niece. And I started to see the neglect. And because I'm pissed off at my sister at this point, because how selfish can you be? You have an innocent child here who can't take care of herself. So I would try to, me and my mom, at the time I still lived at home, and, we would have my niece stay there with me and my mom multiple times a week. My stepdad would be off at work, and, me and my mom would be fighting to go down the hallway to go pick her up from her nap because she was, yelling in the crib, and it was nice. So I learned to be a mom in my 22, 23-year-old self from that time. And he got that mom connection from me. My sister didn't have that warm, fuzzy thing. It was like she loved the attention whenever people would be like, oh, your daughter's so beautiful, but she had no desire to care for this child. And, it was into her toddler years, she was having lots of snacks, but no meals. And if her hair was messy, it was like, oh, she wouldn't let me touch her hair. And it was like repetitive. And it wasn't just, oh, she was being a brat and didn't want you to brush her hair. Mom didn't do it. Mom didn't feel like cooking. Mom nodded off in the bedroom, and my niece found snacks in the kitchen and ate them. God forbid, what if it would have been Drano or bleach or cleanser? But luckily, she just found pancake mix and syrup and played in it. I laugh, but it's sad. And the drawing line for me was like, she was wandering out of the house at 2 years old and going to knock at the neighbor's house at 7 a.m. across the street just to say she was hungry because mommy was sleeping. She would come to my mom's house and she was very manipulative. That little girl had us at the heartstrings, and my sister knew it, and she was extremely manipulative. If you don't give me $50, I'm not bringing her over this week, that kind of stuff. And basically used her as a pawn and as a weapon. And I got real tired of that real quick. My mom she's old school. So when cops call, she doesn't want the neighbors in our business, and I adhered to that because I was in my early 20s and, my mom knew more than me. But at one point, my niece had come to my mom's house and she had a fever and a horrible cough and green boogies and was still in her, wet clothes in the end of May at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 85 degrees outside and hadn't had a meal yet, just snacks and no teeth brushed. And she smelled and I snapped. I called Children and Youth Services anonymously, so to speak. And I reported it, and they went to my sister's house, immediately did a home inspection, saw that it was a mess, said to my sister, "Hey, do you do any drugs?" And she said, "Nope." And they said, "Cool, pee in this cup." Of course, she came a pot for opiates, benzos, weed, the whole nine yards. So they immediately took custody, ended up turning into an absolute nightmare where my niece had to go into foster care for the weekend because of court issues. And I thought my mother and I were going to die that night. Our hearts were just broken. But long story short, we went through court battles, and within a couple days, we were granted full custody of my niece at almost 3 years old. And my mom and I kind of parented her together from that point on. My sister was mandated to do, drug court, parenting classes, anger management classes, all this kind of stuff. And they gave her over a year and a half to do them, and she didn't do one goddamn thing. She didn't want to be a mom. She liked the idea and the attention of having a child and being a mom, but she didn't want the work involved. And they eventually just gave, my mom, they gave our family, full custody, no visitation rights. My mom could decide if we could have visitation rights. And that was difficult for my niece because she didn't understand why she couldn't live with mommy anymore. And I had to kind of explain to her, mommy can't take care of you really good right now because she's kind of sick. But when mommy gets better, if she gets better, then you can go live with her. But for now, you're going to live with BB. That's what she called me. You're going to live with BB and with my mom. And she was like, yay, it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's a really tough
And
situation to be in.
yeah. And the that 3-year-old will be 21 in November. And my sister never regained custody. We raised, my stepdad, of course, obviously helped, but that was pop up, but pop up worked second shift, and she was in school, during the day. So we didn't see pop up a whole lot. So me and my mom did like we did the disciplinary stuff. I was the mean mom, and she was the fun mom because I wanted her to still be able to be a mom,
Yeah.
And once that kid started talking, she didn't shut up, and she had the best life that we could give her. So I'm in an EMT salary, not making a whole lot of money, not like they do now. I remember this was 2006, 2007 at this point. I don't want my mom to have the burden of having to raise a child when I am the one who pulled that trigger. I'm the one who made that call. And my mom didn't want aid from the state or anything like that because there are kids that really need it. And we had 3 working adults in my household that were more than able to provide for her. But at this point, my mom is a grandparent. She's getting closer to her retirement years. She didn't have to spend all of her earnings and all of her, cash out any pension, nursing, stuff like that. Same with my stepdad. Like they're close. They're in their, at the time, mid 50s, getting towards their late 50s. It's not fair that they don't get to live towards their retirement years and save for that. So I want to be able to contribute more.
We're getting towards the hour and a half mark. Do you want
that's why I'm literally, I got like 2 minutes. I'm just going to cap it off for you. Because it gets way crazier. So here you go. So I want to be able to contribute and give them money and be able to raise her because I did this. And I didn't know how I was going to make that kind of money because I wanted to take this kid to Disney and do all the things for her and give her dance classes. And I didn't want her to feel like she was any less than because she didn't live with her mom and her dad was out of the picture. And then I made the mistake one day of going to one of those pole dancing classes for fun. And one of the instructors said, really good.
You're kind of cutting out on me. Hello?
Next week. Can you hear it now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
For a second.
So where did it cut off at?
Just like 2 seconds ago.
Okay. A pole dancing class with like friends. Oh, we're gonna have fun. It's like fun or something. And the one instructor was really funny and we got to be really friendly and I enjoyed it. And it was fun exercise. And within my first 2 or 3 classes of just going to have fun with my friends, she was like, hey, you're really naturally good at it. And I'm like laughing all smug. Ha ha ha. Why? I did dance class for, 5 whole years when I was a kid. And she said, hey, are you looking to work to make money by dancing? And I laughed and I was like, oh, and I was like, and a light bulb went off. And I was like, this is it. This is how I can make my money. And that's when working as a spicy gymnast enters the picture.